Hey everyone, Wade and Ryan here. We're going to look at week 13 games. It was week 14 we're getting into. If you're doing your fantasy, probably only have one more week left before, if you're in the playoffs. It's desperate situations here and a lot of desperate situations.
I guess I would say two of mine. I think I'm going to make two.
You think?
I think so. I think I'm going to make two.
I'm hoping I make two. It's some lucky wins, some plucky wins. I guess the question I would ask you is, who is the best team in the AFC right now, and who's the best team in the NFC? Because it's so hard.
I mean, that's a $1 million question. That's the great thing about this year. This year feels a lot different than next year, where this year feels like week 18 is actually going to matter. Last year, week 18 last year was like literally no one cared. Half the team were like, well, we'll just kneel, get people their bonuses, play a little catch. No one get hurt, tippy toes. But this year, I think a lot of games are going to come down to wire. Divisions, playoff spots, especially in the AFC, even in the NFC. Like the fact that the Bengals, who are, like 4-8, are still fighting for their lives, and they're not technically out of it, especially the way their division looks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few teams that have already been ruled out of it, and so it's just a matter now of we know the Titans aren't going to be there, we know the Giants aren't going to be there, we know the Cardinals and stuff like that. So it's just going to be a matter of like who is still the best, because I mean, technically the Bears are the best team in the NFC right now, but are they?
Right.
The Lions don't look like themselves. The Eagles are struggling. It seems like there's internal problems there. Green Bay has its issues. I mean, the Rams obviously took a loss last week to Carolina, which was surprising. And then you sort of look at the AFC as well. I mean, KC's got Houston has been playing really good in terms of their defense and getting some guys back. So it's just an interesting struggle in terms of, who we really think is going to be there when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and you got teams now are literally now it's like for example, a team like Kansas City has no choice but to run the table. It feels like to even have a chance of getting in. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the weeks to come. It's going to be some fun football.
We'd originally talked about maybe doing a review, but I'll do a preview. We can do a preview of Week 14.
Let's talk about some of let's talk about your Bears for a minute.
Thanksgiving, which was nice.
Yeah, that was fine. Let's talk about your Bears. A team that literally you guys have been just fighting. I think especially you've had these kind of games that in a lot of ways felt lucky, where you kind of squeaked through these crazy wins.
Yeah.
But that game against Philly was more of a statement game. It wasn't even close.
That was a ramming the ball down their throat kind of game.
Right. And it was like a thing like that's kind of it's like your offensive line is coming into its own in December, which is the best time to come into your own. And the fact that, both running backs at 100 yards against this Eagles D that was supposed to be vaunted. It looks like very much like the Eagles team of a couple of years ago that collapsed down the stretch of infighting and you probably caused a lot of strife in Philly over Thanksgiving. What a terrible meals were probably weekends were had on Sunday. I mean, what do you think? What do you say to your Bears?
I mean, it's inconsistency. I think that obviously when you see Ben Johnson with that whole hot dog thing where takes off his shirt, it's free hot dogs for everyone. I feel like they're really starting to feel motivated. And look, it wasn't the best. Caleb is still making mistakes, but he's not getting sacked like he was. The offensive line, to your point, have stepped up. We're getting guys back from injuries. There's still some errant passes and things like that. But at 9-3, we are beating good teams. And we're taking each game as it comes. And so, there's Green Bay, obviously, this weekend. But, I think that there's some real hope here considering what we had last year. And this is something that even if we do, I think we should make the playoffs. But even if we don't go that far this year, I think it's a really good building block for next year. I think that in a lot of cases, we were, a lot of teams, you sort of have these building blocks and you build it up and your team's really not stable. There's a few things in the base that aren't there. And I feel like we do have a lot of things ready to go. And I think Ben Johnson's very exciting for us. He's able to get the best out of Caleb and the running game. I think with Monongai and just being able to push that ball through, I think if we had really good quality running backs, it would be, these guys are good.
They're good.
But it was the tenacity of the running. It was the tenacity in the way that we ran it. So I think it was good. How about you with the Bills? Because obviously, Josh Allen, you guys beat the Steelers last weekend, but then you pick up Adam Thielen. You pick up.
We didn't pick up Adam. Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. You picked up Brandon Cooks, and then you picked up someone else from Steelers.
Pittsburgh. Oh, Pittsburgh
picked up
Darius Slay.
Darius Slay. So sorry, Pittsburgh. So obviously, Aaron Rodgers was complaining last week because he just got demolished by you guys, but he was blaming every wide receiver there. Bills, you're 8-4, and you got the Patriots.
It's the dark days of December coming up, and they got a really tough schedule. They got to play the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Eagles coming up in the next 4. I don't feel great. I think we're very injured. Our defense is really, I think you got to give the defense a credit, like the fact that they've been so injured. They're still kind of stopping teams in the second half. They were dominant against Pittsburgh all day. They couldn't run, especially a Bills team that could get run on. And I think it's so wide open. And I think that's why it's so frustrating that the Bills did nothing to get better at the deadline. They did nothing to kind of fix the receiver room and went into this because it kind of feels like it's wide open. You got the Patriots who pretty much have the division locked down. If the
Yeah.
Bills lose to the Bengals this week, it's pretty much it. And even if the Bills lose to New England next week in their house, the hats will be on. It's going to be a pretty intense couple next two games for the Bills because you're going up against the most desperate of Bengals teams that there is. And they played really well
Yeah.
against the Ravens last week. Just dominated, 5 turnovers, and Josh Allen's been a turnover machine lately. So the fact that they got 5 turnovers from Lamar, I'm terrified of what Buffalo's going to do. I have no idea. All I know is thank God we have James Cook because he feels like he's the saving grace of this season. Second in the NFL in rushing and just dominant every game. He just looks absolutely just like he's not tired. He's just hitting his stretch. I think he could lead the NFL in rushing if he keeps this up. Bengals are a team that can be run on. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun. But Burrow kind of owns us. We'll talk about it in a bit. But I'm not enthusiastic is what you
Before we get into the scores, let's talk about the AFC South for a second, because you've got the Texans who, even with Davis Mills, have started winning. And that defense has been ferocious. The Colts have started taking losses, whereas the Jaguars, who are playing, Colts and Jags play each other this week. The Jags at home are playing very well. They're 8-4, and they're 4-2 on the road, but they're playing really good football. Now they beat the Titans, but that division where it looked like it was the Colts were going to be the number 1 seed, now there's a struggle in that one. And the Texans got a statement win beating the Colts at home last weekend.
Well, again, and then we'll talk about it in a bit. But they're going to play Kansas City again, which is like a do or die game for anyone. Because if Texans beat Kansas City, that means every team above Kansas City has the tiebreaker over Kansas City. Every team would have beaten them.
Yeah.
So Kansas City's screwed if they lose. And again, that Texans D is going to go against the Chiefs have both their tackles out. And I think I don't think the Colts are going to make the playoffs, to be honest with you. I think they're going to free fall. I think they're going to lose and lose next week. They got one of the toughest schedules. They got Daniel Jones with a broken leg playing out there. Yeah. And I think they're just going to challenge him to beat him. He can't run anymore. So that was one of his weapons. He used to be a bit mobile. He could escape and run. That's gone. So now he's just Daniel Jones's arm, and that is not a terrifying thing, I think, for most defenses.
The NFC South, where you have Carolina, who's now in contention for winning this division. I think it's surprising because Tampa Bay's 7-5. They got a win last week. They still look sketchy. Whereas Carolina is slinging some wins together. Atlanta is 4-8. They're not going anywhere, and New Orleans are already out of it. How do you feel about Carolina's chances? They got to feel pretty good about this, considering what they've had.
That was a big time win, man. To beat the Rams, who everyone again just shows the NFL. It's just like when you're dominant, you can lose to anybody on any week, except the Patriots apparently, who just are spanking every team every week. But it feels like it just shows like we've seen almost every team have that kind of hiccup game this season, except even the Broncos. They almost tried to have it against the Commanders last week. They did everything in their power. There's some incredible plays back and forth in that game. But again, it's just so wide open. I think it's crazy to me. And I think, again, you got an injured team and you got Baker playing on half a shoulder. You got the Falcons who just lost to the Jets. So, they're pretty, it's as bad, grim as it gets for them. So to me, I think it's a two-way race between, the Bucs and I think the Panthers would be such a fun team to win the division, considering all the shit Bryce got, all the hate and all that. For him to come back and win the division and then next year be terrible will be just hilarious. Are we going to see him have two good? Yeah, I think they're off this week, but I think so they deserve a nice break. And then next week they come back after that. They got the Saints, and so they got a really good shot at kind of taking this, a couple division games, and it's going to be fun. It's going to come down. I'm cheering for Bryce. I got a little soft spot for Bryce.
Yeah, no, I think it is too. When you just see how atrocious they were, and I think for a lot of quarterbacks who struggle in their rookie season, you start seeing it does take a little bit of time to get the momentum, and little Andy Dalton whispering. It's good for them, and they're getting a lot of things together. Chuba is now sort of taking over for Rico, which I don't know how that's been good or not, but at least the team's getting some wins. I think before we get into the picks, let's also talk about the NFC West, which is basically the best division in football aside from the Cardinals. 3 teams with 9 wins. the
Yeah.
Rams, who took the loss last week, but Seattle also, blowing out the Vikings. The Vikings are just done. And the 49ers, who are 9-4, who are looking solid as well, who are getting healthy pieces back and just playing solid football. When you're talking about the NFC and who's going to make it, when you have these three teams that should all at least have over 10 wins going into this, how do you think that that's going to play itself out when you've got other teams struggling just to try to make this cut?
It's hard to say because no one's really, even though, you had the Rams do a little slip up last week, but the Seahawks look strong. That defense went crazy against Minnesota, put up like 32 fantasy points. They were on my defense, one of my defenses, so it's lovely to see. I don't know who's going to win this. I have zero idea. I think the Seahawks, again, these teams probably play each other next in the next couple of weeks, I imagine. You're going to see maybe the last two games. I think, you got Seahawks Rams week 16, and then you got week 17. It's just going to be a battle. I think, again, all these teams are going to play each other, beat each other up. I think the Packers are kind of holding on to playoff spot as well, and then you got the Cowboys who are kind of just coming out of nowhere, getting a couple wins. That tie might come to either help them or hurt them. It might get them in or it might make them not miss a spot because of it. It's nice to see because last week, the Bills wrapped up their division by Thanksgiving. They already had clinched it, and there was no competitor. The Chiefs were 14-1 or something. It was it. This has been the best, this is kind of what the NFL used to be like every week. A couple of years ago, before there was just these dominant teams, where so week 18 is going to be a blast, I think, this year.
Yeah, a bit more parity, I think, when you find it, and just like it's any given Sunday, which I think in football for the past couple seasons, where we had the legacy of the Chiefs and the Patriots, this is like, okay, well, we don't even know. Like, even the reigning Super Bowl champions look to be weak. Yeah. Let's get into our Week 14 early games. Let's start with the Thursday night football, which is the perennial Thanksgiving teams. Some big Thanksgiving games last week. Dallas Cowboys 6-5-1 at Detroit, who's 7-5. The best thing about Thanksgiving was that halftime show. They should have just done that for the Super Bowl. The Lions are at home. The 3-point favorites and a 54-point over-under. Whether it's Ben Johnson, Amon-Ra St. Brown is practicing. The Lions, they went for it a lot and missed. And so this balls to the wall kind of football that Dan Campbell has been playing is not really going that far. The Cowboys, as we've talked about, are seeing this resurgence. Their defense is getting a little bit better with the Quinnen Williams trade. But it's the offense. Pickens has been on fire. Dak is slinging the ball around. Lions are favored by 3 in this one. What do you like? How do you like Dallas's chances on Thursday Night Football?
This is a tough one because this is like a loser leaves home match. This feels like it. Like Dallas loses, they're toast, and the Lions lose. They got to still play. Probably the Packers again. Probably a couple division games.
Yeah, probably.
I think it's going to be really hard. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I just think they're the hotter team right now. I think Detroit, especially if I'm on St. Brown's, not 100%. The Quinnen Williams, they've been able to really kind of stop the run. The thing about the Cowboys, with the Rico Dowdle made, they were getting gashed every single week, back and forth. And they've kind of solidified that with the Quinnen Williams. The defense is playing better. They can still get passed on. So I see this still as like a big shootout game. Jameson Williams is looking good. And he's got that speed that's hard to kind of keep up with. But I just think the way Dak's playing, he's playing at MVP level. And Jared Goff is not. And I think that's just going to be the difference. I think you can't, the Lions don't have the guys to guard one of Pickens and Lamb. So to guard two, both of them, I think it's just too much for them. It opens the door for them to run, to play action. I think Cowboys win this. I think the Lions are in trouble, and they might not make the playoffs if they lose this. It's been Dan Campbell just kind of showing you like how important those coordinators were last year. So I'm going to go 31-26 for the Cowboys. Big shootout.
I'm with you on this one. I've got Dallas to upset as well. I think they've got the momentum going in this one. You still have Dak, who's able to just throw this ball around so much, and they're getting the defense, as you said, before they were quite porous, and now they're not. So I think, it will be a shootout just because, Pickens or Lamb, these guys, once the ball is very difficult. It's like when we saw trying to stop the Bengals, like when you have two just outstanding wide receivers like this, when and you've got a good quarterback. I think it's going to be very difficult for Detroit to slow them down. I've got it 28-26. Dallas wins by 2. Let's break into our Sunday Fun Day games as we go in first. Let's talk about the Redskins. Washington 3-9 going into Minnesota 4-8. Yeah. Both these teams big disappointments in this one. Vikings are favored by 2 over Washington. Over under is 42. The Vikings, they've just had the worst quarterback performances. Whether it's JJ and then Brosmer or whatever, he was just atrocious last week. You'd wonder if the kid had ever played football before.
Yeah.
This is an ugly game. This is I don't know what Flores can do against this one. You know, Marcus Mariota is going to be in this one. How do you like this one after Washington loses a nail biter last week in a game that they almost got it?
I think the Vikings should do the funniest thing ever and sign Nathan Peterman and start him this week, because that feels like he's the final boss. You know, these are the two underlings. Yeah. There was the opener in the middle. You could spring in the headliner, Nathan Peterman against this. Give him one more chance. Man, that was bad. Bosner was bad. And you saw Justin. And you're now like, it's gone so bad that you're at the risk of losing your only great player in Justin Jefferson on offense. Because if this goes better, what do? You cannot go with J.J. McCarthy next year and expect. Do you just trade Jefferson while he's at his highest, knowing that you're kind of fucked at the quarterback position? Yeah. I don't know what you do if you're the Vikings. I think they're absolutely terrible. And no matter who they play, it's not going to make any difference on offense. I feel bad for J.J. McCarthy. He's been like memed to oblivion. Like every mistake he makes, calling himself 9, and now that's just coming back to bite him. It's all gone so
Stranger
as bad
things
as it could be in this like meme culture, Twitter troll fest. It's as bad as it's gone. Now every quarterback gets that J.J. McCarthy treatment if they throw a pick. I'm going with the Commanders. I don't think, especially the way they played against that Denver defense, they were able to score points. They put up 26 against them. So I don't care. I just see no way the Vikings score any points. I think they're going to have to throw Justin Jefferson the ball about 100 times, even if he gets picked off 20 of them, just to make him happy. I think the Vikings are toast, and I'm going to go with the Commanders to win 20-16.
Funny, I had the exact same score, but I've got it for Minnesota. I just figure they're at home and taking these losses, and maybe that exasperation loss so close and yet so far for Washington. I just think, JJ looks like he is going to be back this week. Kevin O'Connell, I mean, a lot of, to your point, it's like, God, this has gone really bad. This is a really bad thing for us. So I like Minnesota to win this one at home, although I think it's still going to be ugly. Let's keep the trend going with ugly teams and games, as Miami is 5-7. Going to New York Jets, we're 3-9. New York gets a win. Dolphins are favored by 3. 41 points is the over-under. They've been getting a few wins, but still a 5-7 season is nothing to be really happy about this week. Going into New York, the weather has been quite snowy and cold, so you wonder how Miami's going to do anything here. But, if they get Darren Waller back, Waller, if he's healthy, has been playing a lot better, and Tua has been finding him. How do you like New York's chances at home in this game?
The only thing I like the Dolphins, but I don't like December Tua in the cold. I think the fact that I think the Jets beat a terrible Atlanta team that just, again, it took all the mistakes and just with Kirk Cousins, just kind of seeing the end of Kirk Cousins' career in that game, watching him, because he looked absolutely feckless out there. I think Dolphins just ride Achane. He was hot, just running it, just kind of feed him, do his best. And they're 5-7. They win this 6-7. I don't think they have a particular tough schedule coming up in the next couple weeks. I think they could easily kind of rattle off a couple and still be in the hunt. So I think the Dolphins know what's up. I think McDaniels maybe kind of saved his job, considering how bad it started, and now they're kind of, if they can fight for a playoff spot at the end of it, they win this and Chiefs lose, they're the same record as the Chiefs. And think about that when we were talking about the Dolphins. So I think Dolphins know what's at stake. I don't think they're a good team necessarily, but they've smoked my Bills, so I can't really talk that much shit. I just think Tua's going to has enough weapons. I'd like to see Waddle do more. You just can't depend on anybody on that receiver set. The only guy, Dolphin, you can trust is Achane. So I'm going to go with them to win 24-16 for Dolphins.
I'm interested. It's because Tua is 0-8 when the temperature is below 0. It's going to be below 0. It's going to be crappy. So I'm going to go with Tyrod Taylor, who seems to, I think the Justin talk is all done. I think the team seems to have rallied around Tyrod. He's got a bit more momentum. They're at home. So I'm going to take the Jets to win this one. I've got a 21-14 low-scoring game. I just feel that the Jets, after the win last week, they've been close in a couple games. This one's at home. The snow will be there. It's just going to be one of those games where I just don't think Miami plays really well in a frozen tundra kind of setting. So I'm going to go with New York to win. Oh my God, the stinky games keep on going as we go into Tennessee, who are 1-11, going to Cleveland, who's 3-9. Browns favored by 4. Myles Garrett having just a hell of a season, though.
Oh my God.
Sackety, sack. Get rid of him, Cleveland. Trade him. Get a whole bunch of picks for them. Browns are favored by 4 in this one. 34 is the over-under in this one. Can Tennessee do anything? You know, the Browns, I mean, you've got Shadur and everyone's saying, okay, he's our guy now. But there's also talk that, you know, Deshaun Watson is going to start practicing, that maybe he can come back.
I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, Quishon Judkins is sort of the only thing that's really been helping them out a lot as well. But, you know, the Browns have been getting injured quite a bit lately. How do you think against the chances against Tennessee here?
Well, I thought the Titans were playing better the last couple of weeks. And then last week they were absolutely terrible against Jacksonville. They couldn't do anything. And I think you're right. I think Myles Garrett might get like 7 sacks today. Tomorrow, break the record just tomorrow. I think Shadur's fine. I don't feel like he's just this guy his teammates love. You got Jerry Jeudy on the sidelines chirping him out. It's just the whole thing doesn't feel right about it. So I feel like this is a perfect situation for him to come out and have his best game of the year. You know, you're playing against a Titans team that's kind of just given up. They're playing with a backup coach. Again, this is also a battle of guys who they thought were the top two quarterbacks in the draft, and one went number 1, one went in the 5th round. So I think Cam Ward does not want to lose this game against Shadur. So, but I think the Browns D is just too good for the Titans to overcome. So I think even though I don't think Shadur is going to outgun Cam Ward necessarily, I just think the Titans are not going to be able to move the ball against this Browns D. I'm going to go 17-10 for the Browns to win this game. I just think it's going to stink, and I'm not even going to look at it.
Well, they have added more commercials on Red Zone. I don't know if you've noticed that. They've tripled the amount of commercials.
Will get in the Red Zone, so it should be fine.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Cleveland, the defense, I just can't see the offense getting anything going. The weather's going to be crap again going into Cleveland, very snowy. So I've got the Browns to win this one 13-9. I think it's going to be a baseball-like score. I can't see a lot of points going on here with the snow, with Garrett. And again, Shadur is just not competent as a quarterback, I find. You know, the few of the plays they're able to run, you're just watching this guy going, Jesus, what are you doing? So I'm not big on that one. 13-9, I think Cleveland wins. Going into the battle of the AFC North, as the 6-6 Pittsburgh Steelers are in free fall. But as we said, they did trade for Adam Thielen, or they'd pick him up. Baltimore 6-6. And what's happening with the Ravens? Lamar hasn't looked like himself, but they are favored by 6 and a 43-point over-under. Baltimore at home. You could see a bruised and battered Aaron Rodgers last week with his nose all cut and he's not looking good and being very angry and didn't have enough buses to throw everyone else underneath him. Baltimore at home. Pittsburgh is trying to make some sort of plays here just to try to salvage their season. Is it going to be too much? Is Lamar going to take all over them and King Henry run through them?
I mean, watching that Steelers game last week, the Steelers were bad, like offensively bad. Like Aaron Rodgers' receivers, like DK Metcalf just doesn't get open. They had George Pickens, they got rid of him, and they replaced him with DK Metcalf. It's not working. Rodgers looks killed out there. Big sacks. He's got no running game, no offense. The defense looks old, and it was just they looked as bad. And like there's fire Tomlin chants going on. This team is in absolute free fall. I see no way from what I saw last week that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the guy to kind of around this team. But come on, guys, we can do it. I don't see that happening. I think he's throwing people under the bus. It's that time of year where it's the blame game comes, and it's never Aaron Rodgers' fault. I think the Ravens, especially after an ugly 5-turnover game, this is where you kind of want to fix it, turn it around, get it going. I think they handle it easily. I think these two teams know each other well, but I think Lamar really needs to kind of have a game. He's been terrible the last month, like absolutely terrible. Not throwing touchdowns. It's been as bad a run, I think, as we've ever seen in his career. So I see him turning it around, but I think he's hurt. I don't think he's completely healthy, so he's not running right. So I think this game's closer than you think. I'm going to go 2017 for Ravens. I think it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I've got this one 24-18 for Baltimore. To your point, I think there is something wrong with Lamar. He doesn't seem to have that, I don't know, that oomph, that fearlessness that he used to have, and it seems to be playing a bit more cautious and a bit injured. Derrick Henry as well. I don't know the offensive line, but it feels like some of the injuries are getting guys back. This is, again, one of these rivalry games. To your point, I think it'd be close, but I just don't know if Pittsburgh has that ability. Will Thielen be able to do anything? Why did Slay want to leave? Like, what was the point of all of this as well? I'm curious about that. But Lamar struggled. He had a lot of DNPs going out through the weeks. This one, he was struggling to get going too. But I got a 24-18. I think Pittsburgh can almost say goodbye to their season. They've just watched it all fall apart. Yeah. And you've got Baltimore and the Bengals picking themselves up. Let's head into the 9-3 Seattle's. They're visiting a 4-8 Atlanta team. The good thing about Atlanta is they have the cheapest hot dogs in all the NFL. That's pretty much all I can say positive. You know, the Seahawks got 26 points going against the Vikings. And Minnesota had some pressure. Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't have a great game. They still got the win in this one. Atlanta it's just been bad watching them. Kirk Cousins is going to have to try to get things going. He's missing a few guys. Maybe Drake London's back. But, I mean, is Seattle just going to run right over them, or does Atlanta have a chance in this one?
No. I mean, I don't think so. I think the defense, Kirk Cousins is a statue back there. They're going to make his life hell. Especially if you take Bijan out of the game and you make this a Kirk Cousins game, they're going to stand no chance. I think it's a good game for Darnold to kind of have a bounce back. He hasn't been, he had a tough game against Minnesota the other week, and I think he needs kind of that big Jackson Smith and Jigga game on the turf. It feels inevitable. The fact that they have that two-headed and I just think they're just the better team. I think the Falcons are done. So the Falcons are going to be in this. What do we do with Raheem Morris? I think with the injuries and everything, it's just a rudderless ship that's kind of just going down, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop. And the Seahawks are just going to, again, I think, just put it away early. And the Falcons might chip away, but like kind of the Tennessee Titans did to them a couple weeks ago. But yeah. I don't think they stand any chance. I'm going to go 28-14. For Seattle.
Yeah, I've got it 24-14. Seattle, I think it's also, there's a bit of motivation too, because that division is just so competitive and you want to sort of separate yourself from it. And this should be an easy win going into Atlanta, stay in the dome, get a beat down out of this. You get to 10-3. And once you start getting over the double-digit wins, that's when you can start relaxing a bit, but you still want to keep pushing to make sure, because there is a chance that people can fail. And next thing you know, that number one seed is still going to be available. It's up in the air. It's not like anyone has this solidified. The Patriots maybe in the AFC, but the NFC, that number one seed is still wide open pretty much. Bears are tenuously holding on to it. So I think there's that motivation there. So, yeah, I've got it 24-14. Big AFC battle we were talking about as the 8-4 Indianapolis Colts head into Jacksonville, who are also 8-4. Colts surprisingly favored by 1.5 in this game. 47.5 points is the over/under. Jacoby Myers has been good since joining the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. He's starting to find his bit of a rhythm here. So, this is good for Trevor Lawrence as this team finds himself. Jacksonville at home plays very well at home, and we've just sort of said, what's going on with Indy? Because obviously Daniel Jones is injured. Richardson, I think, is just far on the bench to ever come back. How does Indianapolis pull it together? Is Jacksonville just going to get an easy win here, or
no, I'm going to go with the Colts today. I think I'm going to go with them for a couple of reasons. They've had two really tough losses against, the Chiefs and Texans, and they got a tough schedule coming up. They know they're going to have to probably play, they probably have to play the other division games against each other, and they can't lose 3 straight. They're going to fall completely out of contention. Going from the number one seed a couple weeks to completely out of it in the span of like 3 weeks. That's what could happen. So to me, they're easily the most desperate team, where the Jags have kind of won some dominant games. They've kind of taken care of business against bad teams, which they've done. And I think now these division games are always tough. These guys play each other really hard. And I just think the Colts are just absolutely the most desperate team. And they know that if they lose this, the wheels could come completely off and they're going right off the track. So I think the Colts play a good game. They just got to get Jonathan Taylor back into that kind of MVP form that he was the last few weeks, especially in December. It's Jacksonville, so it's not going to be that cold. But you want to be able to run in December. That's what kind of gets you in the playoffs. That's what people defenses are tired. They're beaten down for months of this. So if they can get it, I think they have to get him going, and I think they will. And I think the Colts kind of take care of business after a couple of tough ones. I'm going to go 24-21. Colts win.
I've got a 23-21 for Jacksonville. Only it just seems to that Daniel Jones injury and just the limpness that we're seeing Indianapolis come through. It just seems to me Jacksonville has really got this momentum. They got the edge going. They know that there's a lot in the line. This is a competitive division, and it's theirs to win. I think they play very well at home, and I think this is going to be another game where if Liam Cohn can get the double running game going that they used to have, Meyer as well. I just don't know if I can trust Daniel Jones in how he's going to be trying to get that ball downfield. I've got it 23-21. Jacksonville wins. Another divisional matchup is we had the AFC South, where the 3-9 New Orleans Saints are visiting the 7-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 8.5. 42.5 is the over/under. The Buccaneers were doing very well to start the season. There were some injuries in Baker. You got Godwin back. You're starting to get some of their guys back. But the Buccaneers are trying to find themselves here. 8.5 points at home in this one. How do you like Tampa Bay's chances at home, when Baker has just sort of been a bit of a broken toy this year?
Yeah, it's a shame because it's kind of similar to a couple of years ago with Cleveland, where they ran him out of town because of his shoulder, and you can see he's kind of playing in pain. And I think the Saints could keep this close. I think the Bucs win, but I think again, Chris Godwin looked a lot better last week, kind of getting him back. And now they got Mike Evans kind of back. They opened up his practice window, so he should be back in a couple of weeks. And I just think the Bucs, to me, it's like I think the Bucs could win this if they just rested Baker a week. To be honest with you,
yeah.
Bucky Irving's back. He looked good. He got a touchdown, I think, last week. I think it was like his first touchdown running of the year. So that was good. I think they're just gonna. You saw what Miami did to the Saints last week with Achane. They just ran it down your throat. I think if you're the Bucs, you want to make this as easy on Baker as possible. Run it some more. Make the Saints get some turnovers. With a rookie quarterback, they're going to do that. I think the Bucs take this quite easily. I'm going to go 27-17 for the Bucs, win by 10.
I've got New Orleans just to cover this one, just because I think 8.5 to me is a little too much for this team. I know they're getting better, but there's still some edges and stuff that need to rough around, and especially getting scored upon. And, New Orleans has been trying to keep games pretty close and things. I've got this one, Tampa Bay winning 27-20. A 7-point victory. I don't know about 8.5. That's just a little too much for me going into that one. Heading to our final 1 o'clock game as the 4-8 Cincinnati Bengals are visiting the 8-4 Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills favored by 5.5. Total is 53.5. Joe Burrow is back, it looks like. He's got he had a little time. He had some time off. Obviously both the teams, but he had a little bit more time off because he didn't play on Thursday, so had some time to heal up a bit. Buffalo's trying to get their defense tightened up as well. How do you think Buffalo being at home last week after a nice solid win against the Steelers?
I worry a lot about this game for multiple reasons. First, Sean McDermott has proven time and time again when he goes up against the elite quarterbacks, he has no answers for them. I worry that Joey Bosa is probably going to be out. The Bills have had 1 sack in the last month, and so to me, and now losing Bosa, the guy who got that 1 sack, they've been the last, I think, 4 years. Most of the games have 0 sacks. They've been absolutely atrocious. Their secondary's been great, and I think the fact that you're not going to be able to get any pressure on Joe Burrow, the fact that Burrow, the last 3 times he's played you, has just owned you, just gone up and down the field on you, even at home in the playoffs. He embarrassed Buffalo. And I think they're the desperate team. I think Buffalo, again, I don't know if Dalton Kincaid's even playing. They don't have Josh Palmer. They're just going to have to just run it with James Cook like they did against Pittsburgh. That's going to have to be the way they win. I just think Joe Burrow is going to beat them. I just think Sean McDermott's not going to have the answers. I think they're more desperate. And I think their defense is playing a bit better Cincinnati. This isn't the same defense at the beginning of the year. They got 5 turnovers against Baltimore. Josh Allen's been a turnover machine the last 3 or 4 games. And I just have a Sean McDermott thing about him. When push comes to shove, when the big games, you need the wins for the division, he comes up small. So I'd love to be proven wrong, but I'm going to go with this is an absolute shootout. I'm going to go 30-27.
For Bengals, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals.
I got Buffalo to win. I know that there has been some history there, but again, Buffalo, there's been some injuries, but I think there's that motivation at home, knowing that he's beat you. I think, Joe Burrow's been playing better, but not fully great. And Buffalo knows that they have to shut this down. I've got Buffalo to win 28-26. I think it will be a shootout. It might be a last-minute field goal that gets this thing. It will be an exhausting, beautiful game, probably the best game of the 1 o'clock slate. But I still believe Buffalo can prevail in this one, just because I don't think that they're fully there yet. So I've got Buffalo to win 28-26. Let's head into our late window of games, where there's some really, really ugly games. We'll start with the ugliest one, which is Denver, who are 10-2, against Raiders, who are 2-10. Las Vegas is officially out of the playoffs. Broncos 7.5-point favorites in this one. 40.5 is the over/under. Obviously, Las Vegas, nothing to lose now, man. Whereas, the Broncos have beaten some easy teams to get to this 10 record. How do you think Las Vegas will play in this one when they're at home? Nothing to lose.
It's a disaster. The Raiders. They Chip Kelly fired. Apparently, he didn't even know the plays he was calling, and he was just making up plays. It's just got as bad. So the only thing they have is Brock Bowers, who made that incredible catch last week, one of the best catches I've ever seen. without him, and it was one of
Yeah,
the worst
that was
passes I've
amazing.
ever
Yeah.
seen. But so to me, the Broncos are just going to crush them. I think there's no way. I think the RJ Harvey, they're just going to kind of run it with him. I feel who on the Raiders fears Surtain's going to worry about anybody. They should just put him on
Hmm.
Brock Bowers and just kind of. I think the Raiders might get shut out. To be perfectly honest with you, I just see no
Wow.
way
Okay.
they move the ball. I'm going to go 30-10 Broncos. I just think Sean Payton knows with the Patriots, with what's especially the Broncos, I think have a couple tough games coming up down the stretch. The next like 2 or 3 are really tough. I think they might even have I know they have the Chiefs and they might even have like the Packers or something like that. Yeah, the Packers next week. So it's going to
Yep.
be they got some tough games coming up. So I think they take care of business easy. I think the Raiders are disaster. I think one and done gone. I don't even know if you keep Pete Carroll after this. It's just
Yeah.
gone as bad. And the Raiders are getting that #1 pick, I think. I'm going to go with the Broncos take it easy. Yeah, I'm going to go 30-10.
I mean, these two teams play each other tough, and I think when you look at Denver, who struggles to beat bad teams, I think this could be another one. I think that Vegas throws a bit of fu at them. So I've got a low-scoring game, but I think Vegas can cover it. I've got it 20-14. I don't think there'll be a lot of points scored in this one. Denver again should be looking ahead, but Vegas will be like, "Screw you, football." They're going to see what they can do. So I've got Denver to win. I think that Vegas will play it a little tight, but I see a low-scoring game in this one. We head into Lambeau, where the #1 team in the NFC, the Chicago Bears, are 9-3, heading into a Green Bay team who is 8-3-1. The Packers favored by 6.5 and a 44.5-point over/under in this one. The Bears did run for 300 yards almost against the Eagles last week, and the Packers were able to get their win as well on Thursday or Thanksgiving. How do you feel about Green Bay at home? How do you like my Bears' chances going against a nemesis team?
No, I'm going to take the Packers, and I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, you fucker.
And it's because when Ben Johnson got that job and he had his first little interview, right? And he just started shit talking Matt LaFleur. And Matt LaFleur's like, I don't even know this fucking guy. I don't know why he's talking
Yeah.
so much shit about me. I think the players know that. I think the way Micah Parsons has been playing, especially riding up these last couple of weeks, he's been unstoppable, unblockable. So I think as good as Caleb has been getting, I think they're able to kind of put him in some pressure. I think playing in Green Bay in December is tough, man. Like I think this is a tough job for any quarterback to come in, and I think the Packers, the way Jordan Love he had one of his best, been playing his couple best games the last couple of weeks, and I just think the Bears have had such a run. It's like when you're watching roulette and it's been like 9 reds in a row, right? And you're like, it's got to be due now, right? So you bet all of it on black, and then red comes up again. So I'm betting on black. And I'm betting on the Packers to win this in a very close game, though. I think it's going to be a really fun game. I'm going 27-24. Last second field goal wins it, but I'm going with the Packers.
I actually have the same score, but for the different team. Of course, I'm going to take my Bears to win this one. I think this is a motivation. We beat the Eagles last week. Green Bay does play better against good teams, which would be us, and they lose to crappy teams. I don't know. I think that it's just going to be a lot of pressure on them. We're getting healthy guys back. We're probably going to get TJ Edwards back. The offensive line has been showing up. They're getting, they're helping get a lot more protection. So I think this is a different Bears team. And I think Ben Johnson is going to have some trickery planned for this game. So I got a 27-24 as well, but I'm taking my Bears to win this one. Tale of two different teams is the LA Rams are 9-3. The Arizona Cardinals are 3-9. Rams favored by 8 in this one. 48 points is the over/under. Obviously, the LA Rams taking that loss to Carolina last week. But Arizona, again, one of these teams that we always sort of know, when you got nothing to lose, when you're out of the playoffs, how do you play? And that's what will be the interesting one in this game. It was a tough one for the Rams, but their defense is playing well. And, Arizona's been able to score points. How are they going to do against this game, do you think?
I mean, I think if the Rams didn't lose to the Panthers last week, you could convince yourself that this can be close. I think Sean McVay is going to really, especially the risk of losing the #1 seed. I think they want that. That was an inexcusable loss for them. It was a great game by Bryce Young. And I think, listen, Marvin Harrison Jr. is back. He's going to, so the Cardinals can kind of, the way Joe Set's been playing, they should be able to score some points. The Rams gave up a lot of yards last week. They got kind of up and down, Bryce Young did. I think because Sean McVay is such a good coach, that team understands what's at hand. And I think they take care of it. I think the Cardinals are a fun little team with Jacoby Brissett playing, but they're still a bit of a mess. And they're out of their league in this one. So to me, I like the Rams to win. I'm going to go 30-21.
Yeah, it's too much for LA. Is just going to be playing a bit of angry football after they lost
Yeah.
last week. A bit of a humble pie eatery that they had. So yeah, I'm with you on this one. Rams take care of business. This is a divisional game. You beat them up. I've got it 30-13. Again, I could see there is a part of me that sees them playing balls out the Cardinals just because there's nothing left to lose and you're just playing to get traded and you're playing just to show off a bit. I think sometimes teams do that, but the Rams are going to just want to take care of business. You know, they know that they can try to get that number one seed. I think they might be the best team in the NFC, but I've got them winning 30-13. Heading into our Sunday nighter as the Houston Texans, 7-5, and you wouldn't have thought that at the start of the season when they just looked atrocious. Kansas City Chiefs 6-6, no one anticipated that. Chiefs favored by 3.5 at home. Total over under is 42 in this one. Chiefs need to win this one. So does Houston. Who's gonna win it?
It feels like the Chiefs have like 17 home games. And every week I watch them on TV and the Chiefs at home. I worry about this. I think the Chiefs are missing. I think both their tackles are going to be out. So they got to really adjust this game, especially when you're going up against that defensive line. I think this is the Chiefs season. I think you have to pick the Chiefs. I think as good as the Texans have been lately, I think the Chiefs lose this, it's over. I think they know that. I think they're at home. The fans, if they do not want to do this at home to blow this game. I think they also kind of have the Texans number. They got a bit of that voodoo on them, and I still think Spags is going to have enough to really kind of stop. This is still not really a great offensive team. You know, you still have Chubb and Marks who are fine. Sorry, did it stop?
No, I think it should be stop first.
It must have stopped. Anyway, what I was saying is I just think the Texans are just kind of, they've had a couple nice wins, but I think it's just too much for them. And I think the Chiefs are so desperate, and Andy Reid knows this. Patrick Mahomes knows this. This is as do or die as the Chiefs have been. This is like a Super Bowl to them.
Yeah.
And like in many Super Bowls, they're going up against a D that's going to be coming after them. So they got to have answers. And I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win this. I think they just have to. They have to. I'm going 27-20. Chiefs win.
I'm going with Houston in this one just because, as you said, that there's some linemen that are out for the three offensive linemen for the Chiefs. So it's going to be very difficult for them to protect, especially against that aggressive, Houston defense who's playing like Super Bowl, contenders in terms of their defense. I think that defense is just going to chase him all over. And KC's defense hasn't been that good. It used to be in the top 10. Now they're in the bottom half the league. So I like Houston to win this. I think there's also a motivation to them. Sure, the KC wants to win. They've got motivation, but I'm going to the motivation of the Texans. I've got them to win 26-24. Final game. The Eagles, Super Bowl champions, are 9-3. Heading into an LA Chargers team who is 8-4. It seems like Herbert might be injured again. Chargers, just such up and down football, but they got a winning record. Eagles are favored by 3 in this one. Over under 41 points. LA Chargers at home, which means there'll be loads of Philadelphia fans there.
Yeah.
How do you like the Chargers' chances at home against the Philly team who took a big loss against the Bears last week?
I mean, I don't, because, I think he had surgery on his wrist or something, so we don't even know if Herbert's going to be fully healthy. Yeah. I don't know if you risk this playing him this week against an angry Eagles team that, suffered a couple bad losses in a row. And I think, again, with the depleted offensive line, this spells disaster for the Chargers, I think. I don't know what's going on with Saquon. Every week you think this is going to be the Saquon week, and it's just not happening. I don't see it happening because their offensive line is just not getting the blocking that they had last year. I just think it's going to be too much for Herbert. I think the Eagles have to kind of they got to get the passing game going. They have to get the running game going. And I think, again, with the Dallas Cowboys kind of nipping at the heels, they got to get this win against an injury depleted team. I think the Chargers are just unfortunate. This kind of seems to happen every year. It's like they start off decent, like what could be, and then the injuries start piling on and piling on and piling on. And by December, it's going to be too much. I'm going to Eagles to win this 3-20.
Yeah, I'm with the Eagles on this one as well. I think that Bears loss last week was tough for them. And to your point, it seems like he's always a broken toy. When are you ever going to get a fully healthy Justin Herbert? Same as a Joe Burrow. These are two guys that, that seem to play through a lot of grit, but grit doesn't always win you football games if you're, using Bondo and tape on your body. The Chargers, it's just going to be tough. I think Omarion Hampton might be back, but it's going to be tough to get that running game going. Philadelphia is going to look at what Chicago did and try to shut that down, because I'm sure the Chargers are thinking, especially with Harbaugh, run, and Philly's probably like, not again. I've got Philadelphia to win this one 27-18. I think they get it done, and I think that's going to be really difficult for the Chargers to get back in that. Folks, that's it for our Week 14 preview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Make sure you listen to this podcast, share it with your friends. Ryan, I'll be back next week to look at Week 15, and it's going to be a lot of people. It's their final week as you start the playoffs, as you get in with the fantasy. So thanks a lot for listening, everyone, and good luck to everyone on Week 14.